buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate. And good morning to all my South Shore neighbors. This is Sharon McNamara. You are, of course, listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Here we are on a beautiful sunny day. What a difference a sunny day makes in my voice, isn't it? Amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be happy for the next few days.
I think I will be happy for the next few days. Bring on those 90s, my friend. I am looking forward to it. So, yay! I love the clapping. Yes, Mother Nature. Thank you. I have Melissa Wallace with me. She is my sidekick, obviously, with me every single Saturday. She's here more often than I am, so she always takes the helm here. And today we have a fun topic behind the sale, what your agent can help you with before, during, and after the sale. So we're going to be discussing that. Of course, we have Tim McKinney in studio at WATD's main campus there in Marshfield. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Yes, on the main campus, no tomatoes being thrown around or anything. Campus is pretty quiet this morning.
Be careful what you wish for there. You know that's
I know. Yeah.
that's how you
I'm
jinx
worried about the
yourself.
turkeys than the tomatoes.
Yeah.
You got a lot of turkeys over there?
They're not in our parking lot right now, but a few weeks ago they were here, and let me just say that between the turkeys, spring had sprung.
Yeah.
I just was like, what? They are, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they get territorial too.
I
you
know.
just let them do their thing. They'll leave.
I know when they're fanning the feathers, they're trying to show off for the ladies and everything. It's like, all right, do your thing. I'll stay out of the way.
I'll be over here and see you in November.
Yeah. Guess I'm not going home today. You're sleeping over at WATD.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I drove by a turkey the other day and it had its feathers up. It was the only one, so I don't know who he was trying to impress. But I was like,
hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey.
But it looked like a Like I was like, is that a statue? Like it was like so.
Yeah, and then when you see like the really skinny ones, it was just like, wait, what is that?
Yeah.
You're used to them being like, fat and plump and just cute as a button.
Ready for Thanksgiving and some stuffing.
Yeah, and then you see them walking around and they're not all puffed out. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
It's a sandwich.
Yes. If you are listening on WATD, we'd love it when we get our callers. So call into the studio. Tim is waiting at your call, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Don't be bashful, but if you are, you can always text that same number. Tim will see your text message and he will read it to us on air. You don't have to give your name or anything, but we will get your questions answered. So it's whether it's about this topic or another topic, feel free to call. And I have to tell you, so we've been talking about one of my clients. We have his house on the market, and he sent me an email this week or a text message and said, I was wondering, I wanted to let you know I reached out to the attorney just to, see if there was any chance that we could close a day earlier on this, because I'm going to be closing down south a day, I want to do a day, whatever, blah, blah. He wanted the day. And he goes, I listened to your show today, so I'm communicating.
I'm communicating to you.
I mean, I love him to pieces. Yeah. We're going to miss him up here for sure when he goes south. But, he does listen. And he's like, honestly, he could give lessons on how to be, like, such a great like person, like listing a seller. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and talk about behind the scenes. So he communicated that to you. He had already reached out to the attorney wanting to close a day early. Wednesday you have your call, but in person you meet once a month with your builder, Stonebridge Homes, and Mary was with you because you do those developments together. And I saw an email come through for that property saying that something needed to be signed. So I communicated. I was already in a text with Mary about another client dropping off a check. So I was aware about that, and I said, oh, by the way, this came through. Do you want me to have it signed? Got it signed, and there you go. But that's a little behind the scenes of, we can ask the question to be, get the closing date moved up, but we have to do the paperwork that goes along with that too.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things, one of the reasons, again, is like behind the sale and behind the scenes and what your agent can do to help you before, during, and after the sale. What made me sort of think about this is, like, this week I did a lot of sort of running around of different things, and had talked about a couple of other things, like someone called because they found a gun, and somebody called because they found fireworks, like little things that come up that you don't anticipate, and then like, who do I call? And it's like, here we come with our big cape. But I think it's really important for us to communicate to our clients, and I think that we do a pretty good, thorough job of that. And my comment last week was, something had happened in one of my other listings that actually closed this week where they asked for a change in the closing date. We never heard about it, but our client came in and told us. Yeah. There's never a day where I want that to ever happen. I always want to be the one that's bringing information to my client, not my client bringing information to me, because then I look like a dum-dum.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last week, and I think that's why your client reached out and said, hey, I'm communicating with you. But yeah, we talked about it last week. It's, we shouldn't be the last to know certain things, and we get it. Like, there's conversations that happen, especially maybe financial conversations that we shouldn't be a part of anyways. But conversations that happen between attorneys and clients and everything. But if the listing agent is the last to know that their listing is closing a day later, there's some moving parts, and there's some things that we're responsible for taking care of. And we went through some of those things last week of, doing a smoke inspection, doing the final water. Some towns are very strict, and it's like the very last moment before closing is when a water is being done, things like that. So there's, and calling utilities, the clients calling utilities and having the utilities, changed on a certain date, and now it gets moved. Well, now you have to make that phone call again.
Yeah. And I really do think it's maybe because I am part, self-proclaimed control freak, that I just feel like if you call me first, and, of course, the attorneys have a big play in, this whole process. If you call me first, I can make all those phone calls for you. Lean into us as your listing agent or your buyer's agent and let us know what the concern is. And I know all the right people to be calling and communicating with. So I'll get in touch with the attorneys. I'll get in touch with the loan officer. I mean, and that is part of the problem is when we're not told these things, usually there is a hiccup somewhere in between, because we've had that happen many a times where someone's like, oh yeah, well, we forgot to tell the loan officer. Well, that's the person that's going to be handing over the money, so to speak.
Yeah. Or, we changed loan officers, or, programs and things like that. So if it's changing anything in the process, just let us know. So we have that information. But yeah, like we said, I think we sort of started the conversation last week of, what we do sort of behind the scenes and how we can guide you through this whole entire process. It's not just, during that 30 to 60 days that your house is on the market and go in closing. It's before. What are we doing before you're actually on the market? What are we doing afterwards? And afterwards, you get invited to all of our events.
And I was thinking about Father's Day. I wonder, like, sandbaggers, like, can you rent, like, you know what I mean? Like a couple hours for, like, let's look into that next week. But one of the things is, I think that when people are hiring us as a real estate agent, they're thinking about the obvious things that we do when it comes to real estate, like pricing your home, putting it in MLS, scheduling showings, writing offers, negotiating the terms, and getting you to the closing table. And I think it's everything that happens in between that you don't know about. And I wonder if as real estate agents we don't do a good enough job letting our clients know exactly what we're doing on the back end. Now, I was here the other day, and I'm doing a coming soon in Norwell, but I was sitting downstairs for a couple of hours, like working on that and researching different things and trying to, do some stuff. It's certainly time that my client doesn't see that I'm working on things. So I think that the perception where sometimes people will be like, how hard could it be to actually sell a house? You just put a sign in the front yard, and in our marketplace, it's a lot easier, you know what I mean? Like because we are still a seller's market, that people think it's as easy as just throwing a sign out on the front lawn, and that's the end of it. But that is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
And maybe we're not communicating all the other pieces that we are doing behind the scenes to make things as smooth as possible for you.
Yeah, and I think that especially in today's market, we have to show our value and communicate. Maybe it's even over communicating and saying, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Because, how many times have you gotten the question of, why do I really need an agent?
Yeah.
Tell me what you do for me.
Exactly.
And those are questions that you get asked.
Yeah. And it's like, you do a flyer, you do these things. And it's things that, a lot of people feel as if they can do themselves. And they probably could. But to me, the risk and liability that goes along with not having somebody who's representing you and has your fiduciary responsibility to you, I think is a very dangerous place.
Yeah. And no matter what, you still have to be truthful. So whether you're trying to sell your home on your own, or you have representation as a buyer's agent, as a seller's agent, you still have to be truthful.
All right, what else are we going to talk about? Okay, so we already talked about the welcome. You can tell I did the agenda, so usually Melissa will do the agenda, so she's like, we're always right on track. So
let's talk about what an agent does before a listing. So how can, I'm your seller, I'm coming to you, hey, I want you to sell my house, I think you're fabulous, thank
you.
I'm going to give you 10 apples, things like that. Yeah. But what's something that you do for me as a seller?
Yeah, so one of the things, like today, I'm going to be meeting with some people, and we're going to be discussing, it's just basic information that he gave me. We're thinking about selling our house and buying a new house, and that's really all I know about the process. I actually don't even know where the house is. So it is somebody, obviously, that I know, So it didn't help them in the past with the current house, which is why I don't know where they are. So, that's one of the conversations I'm going to be having with them today, and sort of dissecting where they are and where they want to go, because you can't get to where you want to go unless you know where you are, right? So the whole process will start with that, are they staying local? Are they moving out of state? All of those types of things I'm going to have to find out today. And why are they moving? You know, that's a big one. And a lot of times I will ask, my boomer generation, like, why are you moving?
Right.
And a lot of times the answer is, well, the stairs are getting to be too much. I'm worried about the stairs being too much in a couple of years. I think I want all one level living. I don't need this great big house. All those conversations come into play. But that's when it comes to me it isn't like, all right, let's just throw a sign out there and let's go with this. It's, can we maybe reconfigure your current home to make it work for you?
Yeah, and you have talked several people out of selling their house because it didn't make sense for them to. It made sense for them to modify the home that they were already in. Especially, somebody who maybe doesn't have a mortgage or has like a really great interest rate, and it just didn't make sense to make a lateral move that would cost them even more, especially monthly.
Yeah,
so.
We still have that lock-in effect going on around here because people were able to refinance at one point for 2.375, and the rates now are in the 6s and 7s. Are we back in the 7s again? I had heard they'd gone up, but I don't know exactly. So, and one of the other things that's really important when I'm sitting down with people and figuring out for them is, what is your timeline? When do you want all this to happen? Because I can tell you what the value of your house is right now. We can pull up some comps. We can look at those. So a comparison of a sold property that's similar in style and location and condition as yours. And we can sort of gauge what that range will be. But the market is changing every single day. And the market is very hyper-local, which we are finding out, right?
Yes.
So things here on the South Shore are moving moving fast and furious. And then, in my Dedham area, it's a little slower and sluggish because they have more inventory.
Right. And I think that one of the most important things for a listing agent is to know the buyers. And I know that you represent the seller, but it's how are you going to appeal to those buyers? Because you need one of those buyers to walk through that front door.
Yeah.
And you just had a great conversation with one of your sellers last week, and I was a part of it. And, we're standing in the kitchen and just saying, hey, this is what's out there. This is what's out there on the market. This is what the buyers are looking for. Let's strategize how we can appeal to those buyers.
And that is one of the things is I feel like sometimes people will take offense maybe to the price I'm giving them because they're hoping for more, needing more, wanting more, whatever the case may be. But I always say this, as I'm walking through your house, I'm walking through as the eyes of a buyer because buyers are looking for what's wrong, not for what's right.
Yeah.
Right? So it is important for me to pinpoint these types of items and things that people are going to say, so...
Yeah, and I think that if a property is either overpriced or underpriced, the market's going to tell you right away. So, the buyers are going to either show up or they're not. And if they're not, we can see which way it goes with that listing price. And if they are showing up and it's in abundance and it's multiple offers, way over asking, then we know, and we know that maybe it wasn't underpriced and maybe everybody's coming in with emotional value, which is something that we just cannot gauge.
Yep.
But, I think that within the first few days, you're going to know what that market is, how you're going to get that result.
How often do I kid with you? It's like I'll make a listing live in MLS and an hour later I'll be like, we haven't gotten any showings yet.
I'm like, so everyone's working.
Yeah.
Everyone's at work. They haven't checked their email yet.
We put it on an hour ago. We don't have any showings yet. What's going on? But it's true that we can sort of sense when something has gone awry because we can tell by how many showings we're getting, how many people are coming to the open houses, the type of questions people are asking, the feedback that we're getting. And I was talking about it this week because my listing that I have in Dedham, we did take a significant price enhancement this week, and the sellers are really good about listening. And it was like, hey, I came to this number and I felt like it was pretty accurate when I did a mile radius around your house, because that's what appraisers are looking at for the most part, a mile radius. But then when I expanded that into a broader view and pulled other comps that were outside of that, and by not much, which is sort of a lesson for myself as well. Like one was 1.3 miles, 1.5 miles. When I did that broader reach to see what am I actually bringing in, same style, same condition, for the most part, then my numbers adjusted. And it was interesting to see how that happened. So and they were good about knowing, hey, I know it's only been on a week. I'm happy to help, wait and see if more buyers come. However, I'm letting you know that you'll just be waiting another week with no showings.
Yeah.
And do you really want to stall at this time? And that's the other thing too, is us knowing and pinpointing, where are we market timing? We know the kids are out of college, graduations are happening, high school is getting out.
There's a lot going on right now. Dance recitals, there's just a lot going on right now. Christenings, things, so people are busy with life, and we get it. We just had Mother's Day, there was Easter and Father's Day, and people are going on vacations and things. We get it. But we always say that the right time to sell your house is the right time for you. The right time to buy a house is the right time for you. There's always houses on the market. There's always buyers looking for them. So, I don't think that there is a right time in general, but, people will come.
Yeah. One of the things too with this first, line item that we have, or this first talking point, is what your agent can help you with. Sorry about that. Before your before your listing, and understanding your goals and timeline. It's really interesting because most people might say, well, I can sit down with a pad of paper myself and sort of write all this out, but without talking to a professional real estate agent who is we're in it every day. We see what the trends are. We see which way the market is potentially moving and all of that. I think it's good to just have somebody to bounce this stuff off of. So I don't want people to feel hey, I can't call her because I just actually don't know if I want to put my house on the market yet. Right. My job is to help people decide if they should be putting their house on the market now, should they be waiting, and if they should be waiting, how long should they be waiting for?
Right. And what came first, the chicken or the egg? So if they're also purchasing something, how we're going to go navigate through that process. Getting back to before the sale, there's also the gathering of important documents. Do you want to go through a list of some of those documents that are sort of required for sale?
Yeah, and we had a whole show on this too, where we talked about, being prepared to put your house on the market and the type of questions that we might be asking as agents, for them. But definitely we're find the plot plan, the septic plan. I mean, that's the other thing too, is like, right now, I'm in the process of, one of my listings that's going to be coming on next week. It's coming soon right now. It's in Norwell. And, we have to have the Title V done. And the homeowner I was talking to him months ago, and he's like, oh, I know somebody that can do that. And then it was not an actual Title V inspection. Like, there was no digging, there was no this, there was no that. And it's just like, well, we don't know for sure. And that's one of the things that I love about being in where I am in my career, is knowing the best of the best out there when it comes to finding all this out. So I was able to call my septic guy and the septic engineer, and we were able to get them over there and try to figure out what the system is now. And it is a fail, so it's going to be a new system. But going through that whole process and having people there, and me being there, like I went and I met the engineer, Shane McGlone, actually, I met him this week over there, and just talking to him about, like, do you think it's going to be mounded? Do you think it's going to be this? Do you think it's going to be that? And just having those conversations with him where my client might not understand all those talking points.
Right. So that is something that you took care of for your client. That's something that, in hindsight, someone might see like, oh, you made a phone call, but no, it was more than that. It's you're making phone calls, you're meeting those people at the property, you're making sure that they're going to get the best system that they can, and it's something that, not everybody loves a mounted system, so how are we going to market that to buyers? And thankfully this isn't going to be,
hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We have to know for sure, but it doesn't appear that it will be. But we'll have to wait for the actual plans.
Yeah. So just being able to market that to their next buyer, I think that's great. But it's also so many moving parts to get to that point, and that's something that you cover for your client.
And in some instances, I mean, every client is different. There are clients where we're like, oh, this is who I recommend, to do your Title V inspection. If it's going to be one of those ones where we're not really concerned about, or, that the seller is understanding the whole process a little bit better, we'll give referrals, like call this person, call that person, and they, schedule the Title V inspection themselves, because it's sort of an easier one to do. And then in some instances, they're like, oh, I'm going to call the person who does my pumping. They also do Title V inspections. Well, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Also, if you tell me some of the companies that you use, I am very transparent and very honest with the ones that I think do a thorough job and ones that don't,
Right.
I'd never disparage any company, especially on air, of course, but if you sit me in your living room and ask me a question,
if somebody asks you, hey.
when you peel back the curtain, you know that you're going to get the real Sharon McNamara for sure. And I will tell you how I feel. And then some of the other things, solar agreements is a big one, figuring that out. I got to tell you, that's actually sort of a nightmare. I just can't stand it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. And I just remember when I was helping you and Mary out a couple years ago, I got a phone call and said, hey, we're getting down to the wire here. The buyers haven't, even signed their agreement with the solar to take over the solar. They're not going to get the loan. And I'm like, okay, hold on, let me figure this out for you. And they just didn't have the time. They were working. So I called the solar company, got the contract, sent it over to them. And then, it was fine. But there's a lot of moving parts that come with that. And if you are taking over a lease with a monthly payment and things like that, you want to make sure that that is something that you can afford.
Exactly, because if you okay, you add an extra $300 a month, you might not be able to afford that, whatever. And then condos are allowing you to do them as well now. So now on top of your HOA fees and everything else. The other thing too that people don't think about, and sometimes I'll go and ask the question and people are more surprised by the question than they just, oof, what are you talking about? Is your water heater or your propane tanks leased?
Yes.
So a lot of times people don't even know if they are or they're not. Some people know 100%. Yeah, I had a plumber come in, he put my water heater in and I paid full for it. But some of the companies like the gas company and stuff they have programs where you can lease the water heater through them. That's really important information for us to know. And again, a lot of the questions that I'm asking right out the gate to my clients is like my mindset comes from a place of risk and liability. I just want to make sure that I'm trying to be as thorough as I possibly can to get these answers so we can give the information to the buyers and make sure that they're making a fully aware decision when they put an offer in on this house, so they're not backing out or something isn't a surprise to them. So one of the listings we're actually closing on Monday, and there's a pool and there's a propane tank, and one of the outstanding questions I had, because we couldn't get in touch with the company, I don't know if it sold or something happened, and I said to people, just so you know, I don't know if the propane tank is leased or owned. My assumption would be that it's being leased. Not many people buy the propane tank. Some do, though, so you can never say never. But I was very upfront and transparent with everybody that came through the house. It is outstanding information right now, but we will find out for you.
Right. And you did, and by reaching out to them directly as well. So again, it's catering to your client, what's best for them. How could you best sort of navigate them through that process? I want to get into easements and shared driveways, private roads, and sort of maintenance that goes along with the listing, and doing all of that research beforehand. So when you're pulling that plot plan, you'll be able to see, okay, is there something running right through the whole entire yard or backyard, or where the pool is, or anything where a shed is, and sort of getting ahead of that before it becomes an issue.
I love the way you said that. It's getting ahead of it, because it's never going to be hidden. Just so you know, people, it's never going to be hidden. And when are you going to find out about it? Somebody in our office this week was having a closing and found out the day before closing. The day before closing that there was an issue with some land swap that had happened, and it was never recorded. So by the time the attorneys did the title search and all this, it actually came up with the survey. Survey. I'm suddenly from France. Look at that. The survey from the bank, that came up. But again, sometimes you forget. You've been in a house, like I've been in my house for 33 years. I'm sure that there are questions that would come up if somebody was listing my house that I'd be like, I don't actually know the answer to that. But the reason why we get ahead of it is so we have the answer. It isn't about hiding anything. It's about disclosing everything that we know. And if we don't know what we don't know, period. But if we know something like a situation where there was an easement going through one of our properties in the front yard, and it was like, all right, what happened here? Like, why did this easement end up here? And then remember, I was doing some stuff and I was like, hey, it looks like the septic system used to be in the back of the house, but it's actually in the front of the house. I think that this was a proposed easement that happened, because it doesn't even make sense that this easement would be in the front yard of this house in order to get to the house next door that has their own driveway and everything else. So, but before I even went live on MLS, I brought this up to the attorneys. And again, it's not my job to figure out exactly what happened and why that easement's there and what does that mean, but I did see it, so.
Well, also, you asked the question of, is this disclosable? Do I have to let people know? At what point do I let people know? And things like that. So those were conversations that you were having with that attorney as well. So, there's a house on my street that I was driving home the other day and saw, a big sign in front of it that they're selling. It's 2 neighbors down from me. Never met them. But
clearly they don't know where you are.
They don't, never met them. But, see them out. I saw them over the weekend putting mulch out. So I was like, maybe they're just freshening up. Nope, they went on the market. Ready. But my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, does my land go behind their house? Because I have 2.7 acres and it's kind of like an L. So as soon as I pulled in the driveway, I was like, we got to pull up the map. Yeah. It doesn't. They have an interesting shaped lot where it's like the corner.
Oh, yeah.
But my immediate thought was, oh gosh, am I going to have to,
Look at you fancy pants. I have 2.7 acres of land.
Yeah. But it just goes behind my direct neighbor next door and then the next street over. So, but my first thought was, oh my gosh, am I going to have to, have a conversation, in case somebody wants to sort of grow out there.
Yeah, and you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, you got to pay attention.
Some of the other documents that we're helping people gather is the condo docs, obviously, HOA documents, permits, closed permits. Hey, listen, if you did your basement over and you didn't get a permit, we've had this show on here before with Tracy Grady, full-time real estate agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate. I guess, do you have to have one? You're supposed to have one, but it's going to come up eventually. So if you have a plan on selling your house, I just say get the permit and then make sure they're closed out, because then it comes up at the end of the day. Do you have any open permits? And it will be found for sure. We actually had that happen to us too. We just closed on that house this week.
Which is it?
Well, they were going to get solar panels and then they opted not to, but the solar company had already gone to town hall, pulled a permit for solar panels, and then they never went back and closed it out. Yeah. So it was an open permit that was on the property. So, it was easy enough to take care of. The solar panels were never put on, so there was no inspection. But if you're going to do a full bathroom or kitchen or take down a wall or do something where a permit is required and you didn't get a permit,
I wonder if and maybe I should have asked Tracy on one of the shows that we've done, is when do you pay for the permit? When you pull it or when you close it?
When you pull it.
Oh, okay. Because I was just curious if they just didn't want to pay for it, so they didn't close it.
Yep. Yeah, they probably figured that out quickly. And then all the warranties and all that other stuff are warranties on the roof and any pest treatments, the windows, mold remediation, radon systems, and other things like that are, how we help you gather documentation. We talk about creative, pricing and positioning strategies. That's what we do. And I think that that's what people expect that we're doing. Yeah. That's more, I would put in the category of not behind the scenes, but more
in your face.
Like, this is why we feel the house is priced at should be priced at this amount. And honestly, in my listing agreements, this, Mel, I don't even put the sale price in my listing agreement until we're ready to go live, because things change every single day. If something sold or if something went under agreement and I'm able to find out how much did that sell for, or maybe things are coming on the market, which I'm starting to see in one area right now, a lot of houses coming on the market. Is that going to positively or negatively affect what price we were thinking?
Yeah, when we do coming soons, I don't include the price. Even when we do flyers, we don't include the price, only because, what if we do a price adjustment and now we need, a whole new marketing material and things like that. But when we do coming soons, I leave it up to the agent to respond to people when they ask about price, because I'm never going to I'm not the listing agent, I'm not going to expose your price. And it could change literally the minute that you are going on the market, and that's just how it is. Especially if we do, a coming soon on a Thursday and it's the last Thursday of the month, so the last Friday of the month, there's a lot of closings, and now you're coming back on the market on Monday or Tuesday the next week. Now all of those Friday closings are your comps, if they're comparable properties, but, you could raise the price, or you could say, oh, we might be a little overpriced. So do you want to test the market, or should we, sort of lower it down? So, I always give the option for that listing agent to respond to people when they say price, ? Or we can just give a range.
And it's could change at any time. So that's what we have to look at.
That's it.
Yep. So discussing buyer agent compensation and offer strategy. These are all things that we do like with you as an agent, not so much behind the scenes, but since we've had that change in compensation and how buyers agents are compensated, we have that full conversation with you of what you should expect and what we're seeing. It isn't necessarily what's normal or standard. It isn't any of those things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it, so don't yell at me because I just use those two words. I'm just saying we'll discuss with you what we've been seeing in the market and what you can, sort of expect.
Yeah. And I think, being an expert in your field is really important to shine before, because you are, sort of gaining the trust of your client, especially if somebody that you haven't worked with in the past and it's somebody new to you, showing your value and just, saying, hey, this is what I do. This is what I take care of. And the conversation with them should be easier.
The other thing is that, if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, it isn't like, all right, let's make the phone call tomorrow and then we go on the market next week. I mean, that does happen. It can happen. We can do that. But honestly, preparing yourself for coming on the market, you should be calling us a month, 2 months, even 3 months, 6 months beforehand, and we can help you through that process.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even my client that when we opened the show that I talked about, I think he called us and he was like, all right, well, we're just going to start looking down south and, what are some of the things I have to do to prepare? And let's start having this conversation. And we did all those things. And then we knew he was going away like 3 or 4 weeks later. And just to look.
Did he fall in love?
He fell in love. Yes, with the perfect home for him and his beautiful wife. And, they're like, knock, knock, guess what? We bought a house. Let's put it on the market now. But because he had prepared beforehand, we were able to act quickly. That's why.
As soon as you have the bug, you got to say something. You got to prepare. So if you're thinking about putting your house on the market or even, it's just the thought. If you have a thought, start the conversation. But anything else for before? I mean, we talked mostly about before going on the market. Anything else that we want to talk about before we move on to during?
No, let's move on.
Okay. I'm going to ask you pretty much, what do you do for your clients during the sale of a home?
Well, and this is the thing. I mean, these are the things that I think that people are probably more aware of that we're doing is, we're hiring the professional photographer. We're doing the video. We're doing floor plan, social media promotion. That's all your, lane. Email marketing, local community exposure, open house strategy, broker open houses. If we do that, some areas still do, some don't. Highlighting features, to potential buyers and things like that. But there's a lot of things as we're going through the house and helping you get prepared for the house, maybe that's something that we didn't hit upon, but it is something, it sort of goes together. It's like, I don't know, maybe people expect this of us, but maybe it's preparing the house to go on the market would be helping somebody, like hiring the painter.
Yeah.
Right? One of our agents is helping a client with some mulching. Actually, Ginny Wandell, full-time real estate agent here at Boston Connect. She is so known for going in and doing clean-outs and staging and doing all that stuff too. So,
I'll try to schedule some sort of meeting here and she'll say, oh, I'm going to be at my client's house, helping them clean out the basement, things like that. And it's not everybody. I remember that Kristen Howlett, who is also a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, she has said before that, she's cleaned out during final walkthroughs as a listing agent. She has cleaned out cabinets and refrigerators and wiped them down. It's not her client moving in, but it's her client moving out. And I remember her saying, oh, the buyer's agent was like, what are you doing? Like, just leave it for the client to do. And she's like, well, no.
Well, that's pride of like the listing.
This is my listing and I'm going to take care of it. But that doesn't mean leave everything for everybody else to take care of. There are some things that you're responsible for, but But, when it comes to, the listing of your property, I want to get into showing coordination and feedback because, and you might have talked about this before, I know that you talk about this in your listing presentations with your sellers, is when that showing request comes through, your client just sees, hey, somebody wants to show the property. Yeah. What is your next step behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of people, and maybe I have to get better at letting people do this. And I'm listing something right now for friends of mine, and I'm like, geez, I feel like I'm not, like I know that they trust me with everything, but I feel like I'm not communicating enough with them of all the things that I am doing behind the scenes. But if somebody wants to see one of my listings, I like to speak to every single buyer's agent that goes through any of my properties. And then there's another level if it's a vacant property, but I can talk about that after. But I like to let them know different things that I can't put in MLS. So it might be, hey, just so you know, when you're showing the property, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Just obviously, I always say, make sure all the doors are locked. Don't give the lockbox to your client. Yes, I can't believe I have to say those things either, but
don't let the cat out.
Yeah, those types of things. I'm also saying, but do you have a couple minutes that I can tell you a few things about the house? So I might say, hey, when you're on the first floor, that first floor bathroom, on the right-hand side, if you look on that wall, the hallway wall, you'll notice that there is laundry hookup. So if your client prefers to have laundry on the first floor versus the basement, then they could move it there. Like those little things that, maybe if you're looking really hard, but like maybe not,
makes their showing better.
Exactly. So when the buyer agent is walking around with the buyer, I'm making the buyer smarter, right? Like, so by saying, the buyer's agent, hey, these are all the things about the house that you're not going to know if you're just looking at MLS. And when they're walking around with their client, they look a little wiser too, right? So, hey, I was talking to Sharon and she told me in this bathroom there's actually a laundry hookup. Oh, look, there's where it is.
Or Sharon told me that she's unsure about if the propane tank is leased or owned. So, because that question is going to come up during a private showing as well, not just the open house.
Exactly. So my job and I always say, nobody can sell a house like a listing agent can. So my job is to educate every buyer's agent that goes through any of my properties. Now, in some areas, like with my clubhouse friends, we talk about this all the time, in New York especially, and they're selling more like apartments, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't like I said that with my nose up. I'm not.
Apartments.
Yeah, but that's what they call them.
Yeah.
So, they're accompanying every showing. There are times with certain listings that I will accompany. If I have like a very unique property where I feel like the characteristics of like an antique or something like that have to be shown, then I will do that. In some instances, clients are just really nervous about having people floating around their house. So they'll ask, would you mind? And of course I don't mind. I work for you. I will do that. With my vacant properties, one of the things I always do too is at the end of the day I just like to make sure that the house is locked up and secured. Right, after there have been showings in the house. Yep. And then one of the other things I do is after the showings, we send out a showing feedback form, and then and when they don't answer it, because most agents don't, that's another story for another day of why they may or may not be quite honest with their feedback, but I will call them and just say, hey, is there any chance that you could give me a little feedback? What was your client thinking? And that was a big one here with my listing that I have in Dedham that we just took that significant price enhancement on is, I called the agents that were showing it and, talking to the people that were coming through my open house and really having my radar on helps me sort of dial in on why are we not getting an offer on this property. And what kept on coming up is that there's no bathroom on the second floor.
Yeah.
So I just happened to be married to a plumber. So he was with me and I was like, hey, is there a way to get a bathroom up on the second floor? His response always is, Sharon, with any amount of money, you can do anything you want, right?
Yeah.
So then I started changing my dialogue as I was in property with people. I was saying, people would say, oh, is there a bathroom up on the second floor? And I would be like, no, there isn't. However, one of the things I was discussing with my husband is maybe this would be like a great primary suite up here and make this side your bedroom. And on this side, perhaps you do like a nice bathroom and laundry up on your second floor.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I really love that idea.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to sort of you have to communicate. You know what? We could just... At the end of the day, it's just communication. Period. Amen. Just communicate.
Yeah. And hopefully, you get multiple offers, and there's a lot that goes behind the scenes with gathering all that information for the offers. I mean, we've done so many shows about multiple offers and how to submit them and what we do behind the scenes for that. But, it's not just you get a piece of paper and this is what I'm offering you. There's so many other elements to an offer, making sure that you have all financials in order, things like that, have it all organized. And that takes time.
Yeah.
It certainly takes time, making sure you're going through your email and getting every single bit of information. You're not leaving anything behind. So you're presenting that to your client.
Mm-hmm. And too, as you were saying, I don't know what you just said that just prompted my mind about the different things that we're doing. And this is sort of stepping back a little bit in our agenda here of like the things that we're helping clients do. And sometimes we're helping them not to do anything. And what I mean by that is, I'll go to someone's house and they'll be like, oh, well, I have to do this, that, and the other thing. And I'll be like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Mm-hmm. All you're doing is wasting time, energy, and money in most instances to do that. Don't put, you don't have to do that in order to get your house on the market.
Yeah, maybe we should do another show like that of, should you do this?
Oh, yeah,
that?
We've done that before. Yeah. Should I or shouldn't I?
Should I or shouldn't I?
All right, we can do that next week, I guess. Am I here next week? I don't even know if I'm on next week.
Yeah, I think
Am I? Okay, yeah. Oh, it's Memorial Day weekend, too.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Mackenzie's coming home. That will be fun from Texas. So those are some of the things. Again, you're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. I'm Sharon McNamara, the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate. I am in studio here at our home studio in Pembroke Center, right across the street from Big Y. Let's talk about the Big Y, giving them a big shout out.
Yeah.
Melissa is the Director of Operations and Agent Relations, and we have Tim McKinney, who is in studio at WATD. I liked to say, I said this morning, he's at the home campus there.
Home campus.
781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. That is the phone number to the studio. So if you have any questions for us, it can be about this topic. It can be about any other topic that you want real estate related. Feel free to give us a call or send a text to that number. You can also find us on all of our social media pages. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. So you can find us. Our YouTube channel is Boston Connect TV. So you can find us there. That's how I watch you when I'm not on the show, on YouTube.
Boston Connect TV?
Yeah, Boston Connect TV on YouTube. And today we're talking about behind the sale, what your agent can help you with before, during, and after the sale. Maybe things that you're not thinking about. Maybe you just think of us as the person who puts the sign out, puts our pretty rider up on top, and then, we get all dressed up and do our open houses. I assure you that it's much more than that. And there are a lot of things, a lot of value that we give in between, during, and after. So,
yeah. I also want to say that there are rules and regulations that we have to abide by, not just as real estate agents, but the law. So making sure that, in behind the scenes, we're getting all of the documentation needed for a sale, and even a purchase. We'll talk about buyers as well. Making sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, making sure that we are abiding by the marketing rules of the world, and making sure that we're doing all these things that we're supposed to be doing.
I think that the general population doesn't really understand fair housing laws because I guess when you make a comment and you don't mean anything behind it, that it's hard to even think that it is, not abiding by a fair housing law. But I'll give an example. So one might be, as I ran down the stairs with my wife, I can picture myself running down the stairs on Christmas morning, with my children, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Before we go to mass. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many violations in that one sentence. Like, we're looking forward to moving into a family neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can't even say the word family. Why? There's in MLS. Single family, multifamily, family room. But running down the stairs. Now I know you're not handicapped, right?
Yeah. It can't be, short walk to the beach. Well, not everybody can walk, so we can't say, we say short distance from the beach.
Yeah.
Things like that. We have to analyze what we're saying
before we
say it.
I want to do that as a show. That's going to be that. I want that as a show.
What?
Find the fair housing violation.
Fair housing. Oh yeah,
let's do that, and then we'll have contest. We'll have a contest. Oh, so let me just talk to you. I'm going to digress because we only have 4 minutes left. But Big Y is going to be moving in across the street from us in the old Stop and Shop building, supermarket. So Big Y is going to be there. They reached out to us this week and said, "Hey neighbor, we would love to bring you lunch one day for you and all of your agents, and tell us how many people that you would be there and would like to have there, and we'll bring you sandwiches." And I guess they're known for their pizza. Who would have known? And we were talking to them, and what I'm going to try to do is get them on when they have their soft opening June 4th. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to get somebody from over there to come join me that morning, and we'll talk about the Big Y and how it's a family run supermarket, and we are so looking forward to that in Pembroke Center. They're definitely making some huge improvements over there with even just the way that it looks, so we're super excited about that. But I'm also going to hit them up for some gift cards.
Oh yeah.
So if they're listening right now, just so you know,
we're communicating with you.
Yeah, I love the sandwiches, but if you could actually give me some gift cards and we can raffle them off when we do our contest, right? So find the fair housing violation. That will be a fun one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll have to have a disclosure beforehand. Say this is
exactly. We are not discriminating against anybody.
Fair housing.
Yeah. So, and during the transaction, there's a lot of things that we're doing that you might think maybe your attorney is doing or your loan officer or something else. They may be doing it, but I'm letting you know that we are too. We talked about this a little bit last week, but I'm looking for the deposit deadlines, the inspection deadlines, purchase and sales deadlines, mortgage commitment dates, big one. I actually did a little blurb, what do you call it, like a quick reel or something, like a story this past week on Instagram from our show last week that said, hey, this is the importance of knowing, why these dates are important, because you could lose 5%. Title V, we've talked about that. Final walkthrough and closing coordination. So this is where experience matters. A good agent is not just reacting to the transaction. We're watching the road ahead to try to spot things before we hit a bump in the road.
Yeah.
I can't believe what time it is.
I want to give you an opportunity to promote your open house tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. So I will, as I said, I did take a nice price enhancement on my listing in Dedham. It is a 3-bedroom cape, central AC, has a beautiful room off the back that's a 4-season room. So it's not just a sunroom. Lots of potential. We found some hardwood underneath the laminate in the kitchen. It has a fireplace. It's in a wonderful, wonderful neighborhood, Green Lodge area of Dedham, if you're familiar with that. So we just took a price break from $739 down to $699, and I will be there tomorrow from 12 to 2.
Yes. I'm going to be promoting all of our open houses this weekend on Instagram and on Facebook, so be sure to follow us, Boston Connect Real Estate.
Yes, and the address is 113 Ledgewood in Dedham. 113 Ledgewood in Dedham. I'll be there tomorrow, so if you want to come visit and say hello, that's where I'll be. Actually, one of our WATV listeners came in last week, so thanks for visiting.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Tim.
Have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in
The South Shore's first choice for live team coverage of breaking news, emergency traffic, and severe weather. 95.9 WAT.